Hello everybody, welcome back to Read and Reread. I am Angelia and today I have a haul, a June book haul of some books that have gradually accumulated over the past month or two. I don't know how long it's been since I did a haul. I think I did not really a haul, but like a little batch of things, but I think that there's enough here. I don't know how many, maybe like 7. There's enough here to call it a small haul. And really, all of these, they are, for the most part, associated with some sort of reading project. So it's not just random book shopping, willy-nilly, haphazard. It's not chaotic. It's a finely tuned act of engineered reading. So let's just dive in. The first one, I have been gradually reading the Barsetshire Chronicles. Ooh, I nailed that pretty good this time. By Anthony Trollope, a Victorian series of 6 books that begins with The Warden. I've read The Warden and Barchester Towers. I have been trying to put together a particular set that is a UK Penguin Classics edition that came out, I think it's something like 2012 or 2000, this one's 2016. And they're not in print anymore, but they're sort of out in the wild. And so I have managed, after I got the first one at a used bookstore, not even knowing that it was going to be hard to find the rest, and then it was quite the quest to find the second one, and then now the third one. And so this is Dr. Thorne, and I'm really happy to have it. It's in really great shape. There's this one teeny weeny little spot on the front, but other than that, it looks perfect. Still even has the price tag on the back. I don't have a specific timeline for reading this series. The books kind of keep getting longer and longer, but I do want to read it sometime in this second half of the year, and then I'll slowly continue to roll through the series next year as well. I love these particular editions. They're really sturdy. The cloth cover feels really nice, and they have a map inside of the whole area that these stories take place. And then you get also this, where is it? There's like a facsimile of the original title page. And I thought that in this haul, I don't usually do this, but I thought I would read just the first couple of sentences of each book. And then if the video seems too long when I'm editing, you'll never hear any of them because I'll mercilessly chop them back out. But just for a little flavor, I thought it'd be fun to read. Not an entire page or paragraph, but just a couple of sentences. Dr. Thorne recounts the story of the son of a bankrupt landowner, Frank Gresham, who is intent on marrying his beloved Mary Thorne, despite her illegitimacy and apparent poverty. Frank's ambitious mother and haughty aunt are set against the match. Isn't that always the way? And they push him to make a good marriage to a wealthy heiress, just like Victorian aunts are supposed to do. Only Mary's loving uncle, Dr. Thorne, knows of the fortune she's about to inherit. Dun dun dun. But he believes she should be accepted on her own terms. I like Dr. Thorne already. All right, here's the first sentence. And I do appreciate that Anthony Trollope puts chapter titles. This was published in 1858. So perfect for Victober or any other time. Chapter 1, The Greshams of Greshambury. I've never lived in a place that was named for my name. Before the reader is introduced to the modest country medical practitioner who is to be the chief personage of the following tale, it will be well that he should be made acquainted with some particulars as to the locality in which and the neighbors among whom our doctor followed his profession. Don't be put off by the wordiness of that opening sentence. Anthony Trollope likes to set the scene. He takes time every time a new locality or a new family is introduced. He stops the plot and announces, now we have to talk about the such and such family. And then he winds each person up, puts them on the playing board, and lets them start going into the story. So that is just his style, and I actually appreciate it because there's a lot of places and people, and I'm not left to fend for myself trying to figure it out. He gives you something to go on, describes everybody, lays it all out, and then the plot progresses. All right, then the next one is also a Penguin edition, a more recent, currently in publication, Penguin clothbound classic, and this is Emma by Jane Austen. I have been very slowly and gradually accumulating this particular edition set. I'm about halfway through. Maybe I'm a little more than halfway. I think do I only have 2 left maybe? I don't know. But I've been slowly putting it together. I have one big bound volume of all of the main 6 novels that was a gift from Stephen way back in the 90s, and I've enjoyed it a lot, but it's getting kind of brittle and yellowy, so I have been gradually replacing it with this set, and I decided to treat myself to Emma. I love these chairs, and I have my fingers crossed that Emma was going to be the group read this year for Jane in July, and it is! My wish came true. So I am celebrating by buying this copy of Emma. I love this book. I've read this story I've read it at least 3 or 4 times, and I'm really looking forward to reading this with a group. It's also pretty long. Actually, this one is too. So if you're looking for a big book summer book, either of these would qualify. So this is definitely going to count for one of my big book summer selections. Emma is a little bit different in the Jane Austen lineup because the main character is not she's not actively looking for a husband, and she's not in financial distress, and she doesn't have to worry about making an advantageous match or balancing the question of marrying for love versus money or any of those kind of problems that sometimes comes up in Jane Austen novels. But she's a very different kind of protagonist, and she is described very famously in the first sentence. Emma Woodhouse, handsome, clever, and rich, with a comfortable home and happy disposition, seemed to unite some of the best blessings of existence, and had lived nearly 21 years in the world with very little to distress or vex her. So with a beginning like that, you know that perhaps something may come down the pike to vex her by the time these 400 something pages have ended, and maybe that will bring about a little change or growth in our young friend Emma Woodhouse, and I will enjoy reading all about it once again. That was published in 1815, so it is a Regency novel, and if you have never had the particular pleasure of reading Emma, I highly recommend it. Now, the next book is also, well, those weren't set in the past when they were written. They were contemporary novels at that time. The next one is actually a historical fiction novel, and it looks like a library book, but I'm going to try to de-Mylar it if possible. This is West by Carys Davies. Last year I read Clear, which was her most recent book. I really loved that one, and I've been wanting to read another book by her. This came up on thrift books at a low price that I couldn't resist. It is a withdrawn book from the Sarasota County Library System, so sorry if you live in Sarasota, Florida, because this one has been yanked out and now it's mine. I hope they had extra copies and they just decided to take one out. So this one's in really good condition. This is a short novel, so maybe I have so many books that I've said, ooh, this is kind of short. I'll save it for September. Ooh, a collection of short stories. I'll save it for September. So like every other month, I'm going to get to September and there's going to be 30 books that I've said, ooh, this would be good for September. But this really would. And also, I think it's an accidental June on the Range too, because it is kind of a story about a Western exploration in, I think it's the 19th century in the United States. Here's a little bit about the plot. When widowed mule breeder, that's a great start, Cy Bellman reads in the newspaper that colossal ancient bones have been discovered in the salty Kentucky mud, he sets out from his small Pennsylvania farm to see for himself if the rumors are true, that the giant monsters are still alive and roam the uncharted wilderness beyond the Mississippi River. Promising to write and to return in 2 years, He leaves behind his daughter Bess, to the tender mercies of his taciturn sister and heads west. Now, I just have to know right from this, but was there a time where there was a rumor that there were still dinosaurs roaming in the American wilderness? Was that a thing? I need to know. So he thought that he was going to find live dinosaurs, and he goes off on a quest, leaving behind his daughter. And okay, so here's Bess. With only a barnyard full of miserable animals and her dead mother's gold ring to call her own, Bess, unprotected and approaching womanhood, fills lonely days tracing her father's route on maps at the subscription library, waiting for his letters to arrive. Bellman, meanwhile, wanders farther and farther from home across harsh and alien landscapes in reckless pursuit of the unknown. And here is a couple of sentences from the beginning. From what she could see, he had 2 guns, a hatchet, a knife, his rolled blanket, the big tin chest, various bags and bundles, one of which she supposed contained her mother's things. How far must you go? That depends. On where they are? Yes. So how far? 1,000 miles? More than 1,000 miles? More than 1,000 miles. I think so, Bess. Yes. So Dad just thinks it's a great idea to strike out after his wife dies and look for dinosaurs. I need to know more. All right, so we're going to leave the past behind and we're going to move to the present and the future in the rest of this haul. And it's all kind of weird and speculative or science fiction-y. You can just tell what kind of moods I was going through when I was shopping for books. The first one is kind of a unicorn. I talked about this book numerous times, but I talked about it most recently in a video that was about like your fantasy shelf or your ideal shelf, and you could name special editions that you wish you had and things like that. And one of the things I talked about was that this series by Ben Winters is really hard to find. And I read this trilogy a number of years ago. Stephen did too. He really liked it. And I found out since then it only ever has been published in paperback. And there's a couple of editions of the paperbacks, but they're just really hard to track down. And I've never seen them in secondhand stores. The copies online always look like they've been through some things. And I finally found this in the clearance section at Half Price Books very recently, The Last Policeman. This is the first book. It even has a half price bookmark. This is the first book in the trilogy. And it's in really good condition. That's a pretty interesting cover. There's an ugly cover too. This one's the better one. This did win the Edgar Award the year that it came out, which was 2012. And it is the beginning of a trilogy, and it is a pre-apocalyptic tale. In this series, it has been discovered that a comet, an asteroid, a very large asteroid is on path to hit the Earth in several months' time, and this is going to bring about the end of everything. It's going to be so big that if you live in a certain distance from where it lands, you will instantly die, and if you live farther out, you might survive the impact, but you are going to die because of the blackout effect and the loss of sunlight and other disasters that are going to be set off by the impact of the asteroid. So in the wake of this knowledge, people's behavior is getting really, really strange. Lots of weird things start to happen. And this is what the trilogy is about the effect of knowing exactly when the end is coming on people's behavior. And in this first book, our main character all the way through is this guy, Hank Pallas. And Hank is just made detective at the police station, and he's a murder detective. And at the beginning of the story, there is a man in I think it's a McDonald's bathroom, a fast food bathroom, who appears to have taken his own life, but Hank pretty quickly determines that it's actually a murder staged to look like a suicide. There's been a lot of suicides since the news about the asteroid came out, so people aren't surprised, and he thinks that this was just used conveniently to cover up a murder. The question is, who cares? Because nobody where he works really cares at the police station. They're basically, their attitude is, we're all going to be dead soon, so why work so hard trying to figure out this murder? But Hank became a detective for a reason. He wants to solve crime. He believes in justice. And so he sets about trying to solve this crime. Meanwhile, he's coming to terms, like everybody else is, with the terrible news. And then it follows him through the next two books as well. So I do want to reread this trilogy, and now I can get a start. And I will stick this in somewhere in the reread part of my 60 before 60 project now that I have my copy. Chapter 1. I'm staring at the insurance man and he's staring at me. Two cold gray eyes behind old-fashioned tortoiseshell frames. And I'm having this awful and inspiring feeling like, holy moly, this is real. And I don't know if I'm ready. I really don't. I narrow my eyes and I steady myself and I take him in again. Shift on my haunches to get a closer look. The eyes and the glasses, the weak chin and the receding hairline, the thin black belt tied and tightened beneath the chin. This is real. Is it? I don't know. And so it begins. It opens right at the crime scene. The next book in this haul is a case of BookTube made me do it, prize lists made me do it, and that this is on the calculation of volume part 1 by, now I'm not 100% sure of this author's pronunciation of her name, Solvej Balle or Solvej Balle, translated by Barbara Haveland. I think it's translated from Danish. If you know more about this author and I have mispronounced the name, please tell me in the comments. But this is the first of a projected 7 books. And I know that 2 are out, and I'm not sure if 3 are out. I know some people have been talking about part 2. And I took my time thinking about this one and listening to multiple comments and reviews. And anyway, gradually I amassed a case that I do want to read this. And I'm hoping that I like it so much that I want to read the whole series. And it also helps that it has a really excellent cover with a really nice texture. It makes a difference. So I came upon, there was 2 copies of this at the local Barnes & Noble. And I got all excited and I bought it because I had not seen it in person. And I do like to send them a little message. I kind of like to buy unusual things at Barnes & Noble so they will think that they should keep buying international titles or kind of off the beaten path authors or poetry or just different things other than the big heavy hitters. It was copyright in 2020 but translated in 2024. And it was on the long list of the International Booker Prize. And I know that it's about a woman who keeps reliving the same day over and over and over. It says on the back, Tara Selter, the heroine of On the Calculation of Volume, has involuntarily stepped off the train of time. In her world, the 18th of November repeats itself endlessly. We meet Tara on her 122nd 18th of November. She no longer experiences the changes of days, weeks, months, or seasons. She finds herself in a lonely new reality without being able to explain why. How is it that she wakes up every morning into the same day, knowing to the exact second when the blackbird will burst into song and when the rain will begin? Will she ever be able to share this strange existence with her beloved and now chronically baffled husband? It just sounds so strange. After hearing about it so many times, I just got the feeling that I wanted to read it too. Here is the first couple of sentences. It begins, it says number 121. There's someone in the house. Heard as he moves around the room upstairs, when he gets out of bed or when he goes down the stairs and into the kitchen. There's the gush of water through the pipes when he fills a kettle, the sound of metal on metal when he sets the kettle on the stove, and the very faint click when he turns on the gas. Then there's a pause until the water comes to a boil. Okay, it keeps going with the tea making. That's a good sign to me. Start with a cup of tea. Even if I had to live the same day over and over for the rest of my life, it would always begin with a cup of tea. And it does when it isn't the same day over and over. So maybe I'll be a good candidate for this to live in this world. So here it is. I'm not 100% sure what to expect, but I have a general idea, and I could just do this a little bit longer too. Now the last three are all books that I am probably going to put into my science fiction double feature, the speculative side of my 60 before 60 project that is happening on Discord. The choices for June, July, and August are in there, but I'm planning the next batch, which is September, October, November. And so that's what I'm fiddling with right now, and I have a few different things in mind, and some of these are going to come into play. The first one is a science fiction 20th century classic, The Man Who Fell to Earth by Walter Tevis. Walter Tevis is an author who, and it might be Tevis, but I'm just guessing it's Tevis. He has written a number of novels that have become really successful movies. That is how I knew about him before I knew that he had some science fiction that is really well regarded. He wrote The Queen's Gambit, The Color of Money, The Hustler, and The Man Who Fell to Earth. He also has a dystopian novel called Mockingbird that I'm very interested in. It came to my attention that he could write science fiction. Was it last year? Maybe a year or two ago. My friend Michael sent me this short story. He said, have you ever read this story by Walter Tevis? It was a reprint from Omni magazine, and it was a story. I'll have to look up the year and I'll put it up on here. It might be from the late 70s, and the story is called Rent Control, and I put it in my 30 Stories in 30 Days project, I think last year, and it is this terrific short story about this couple that finds out in their apartment in New York City that if they stay on the bed and stay touching, that time stops everywhere else. So they can stop time, and then when they separate, it restarts again. And it has some unusual effects. So that led me to investigate. And then I was surprised. I did not know that he wrote The Man Who Fell to Earth, which I know was made to a movie with David Bowie. And then I think there's a remake too. I haven't seen either of these movies. Despite being an enormous David Bowie fan, I've never seen this movie. I've seen clips from this movie. So now I want to read the book first. I got a copy on Thrift Books, and somebody just wrote in it like there was no tomorrow. I don't know if they were taking a class or they were in a book club, but they underlined and they might have been drinking at the same time, because they not only underlined, but just wrote lines right through it. So I'm not sure what was happening there, but this was published in 1963, and it is about, I think it's about an alien who comes to Earth, and I mean, there's no synopsis here. Somebody lands on Earth and then has to figure it out. I guess we're gonna figure it out when I read the book. So here is the beginning. After 2 miles of walking, he came to a town. At the town's edge was a sign that read Haneyville, population 1400. That was good, a good size. It was still early in the morning. He had chosen morning for the 2-mile walk because it was cooler then, and there was no one yet in the streets. It is short, so it is it's just barely over 200 pages, so it's possible contender for Shorty September. As is the next book, which I have heard from numerous sources is very, very weird. And the more I heard it, the more I wanted to read it myself. And it is The Membranes by Ta-Wei. This is a Taiwanese author. The translation is by Larissa Henrich. And this book was written in the 90s. I found out that this author has written some other fiction, short stories mainly, but the bulk of their work is in academic and scholarly writing on LGBTQ issues, disability issues, and also Xenophone literary history. But here's what this novel is about from 1995. In the late 21st century, humanity has migrated to domes at the bottom of the sea to escape devastating climate change. Oh, that was kind of before its time. Momo is the most celebrated dermal care technician in all of T-City. But after meeting her estranged mother, she begins to explore her true identity, a journey that leads to questioning the bounds of gender, memory, self, and reality. First published in Taiwan in 1995, The Membranes is a classic of queer speculative fiction in Chinese. So it is definitely, this has super September vibes coming out because it is only about 150 pages. So if you are reading along, beware. I think I'm going to pick this for September along with something else. Maybe it might be these two, very possibly. I don't think this is counts as speculative fiction. I don't know. But all three of these are short, so we'll see what happens. Okay, so The Membranes. Let's read the little beginning. Chapter 1. Momo brushed her yellow bedroom wallpaper with her fingers. Then she bit gently into a hothouse peach, sweet juice oozing from pink skin so delicate it would bruise if you blew on it. Had she perceived the yellow paper through direct exposure to her subcutaneous neural network? Was it her taste buds that detected peach sweetness? She would never know. An impenetrable barrier existed between her body and the material world. Well, that makes me want to know more. And then last but not least, this one is not a shorty, and I do want to read it. I'm thinking October, November probably. And I know some people are going to have already read this, but I haven't. And so it is going into my project. And that is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. I've heard so many people say how much they enjoyed this book and went on to read the series. I don't know how many books are in the series. I really loved the Monk and Robot books, the two that have come out that begin with A Psalm for the Wild-Built. Those were really different. I really liked the feel of them, and from what people say about this book, I think a similar mood is going to come upon me as I read this book. And it is described as a rollicking space adventure with a lot of heart. When Rosemary Harper joins the crew of the Wayfarer, she isn't expecting much. The patched-up ship has seen better days, but it offers her everything she could possibly want. A spot to call home, a chance to explore the far-off corners of the galaxy, and some distance from her past. And nothing could be further from what she has known than the crew of the Wayfarer. The first chapter says, Day 128, GC Standard 306 Transit. As she woke up in the pod, she remembered three things. First, she was traveling through open space. Second, she was about to start a new job, one that she could not screw up. Third, she had bribed a government official into giving her a new identity file. None of this information was new, but it wasn't pleasant to wake up to. Okay, good start. I'm excited. So that's it for now. That is my latest acquisitions. Let me know what you have read, what sounds interesting, and I will enjoy hearing from you in the comments. Have a wonderful day. See you soon.